when I was at Beckley, and some of the guys were there talking about, they had got a call that some of the neighbors, his neighbors, was complaining that he was pointing cameras in their kids' bathrooms, bedrooms.
Jesus.
Okay. So everybody's kind of talking about it, and, everybody didn't, it's a different kind of mindset to have when you're looking at that stuff, and certain things may seem suspicious, and then certain things you kind of blow off in the scheme of things if you don't do it. And we're all talking about it, and I'm like, man, what's the deal with this? So I just kind of for some reason threw a red flag to me. So
sure,
I called the neighbors, started talking to all the neighbors and everything else, and it's like, yeah, well, this and this and this, and about what he'd been doing with the cameras, and goes on and I called his landlord. So, and this gets kind of crazy, just so you know.
I'm down. Crazy is my middle name.
What happens is I call the landlord. Landlord says that she had just recently kicked him out. And I'm like, well, doesn't mean no good. I can't go in his house if, just because you kicked him out, I can't go in there and go through his stuff still. There's stuff still in there. And I was like, but you the landlord. I don't know what kind of agreement you got. All I know is if you report a crime to me that there's something that you've got reason to go in there, or you're able to go in there, and you see something, then you call me, and then, we'll see what we can do. And so I guess they worked that out. He didn't come back for stuff, and like you're supposed to, all that different stuff. And ultimately, I guess they went in the house. Okay. So they went in the house, and the lady calls me, and she's like, I'm not going to mention her name, but she's like, oh my gosh, there's this and this and this. You need to come and do this. I was like, well, I can't come in there until I get a search warrant. So I need you to tell me what you saw. You're going to have to write me a statement. You're going to have to do all this stuff and everything else. So she does. She writes me a statement, gives me all that stuff. Ultimately, I get a search warrant for the house and everything, get it signed off on, and serve a search warrant on the house. He's, of course, not there. And because I really, at that point in the moment, I didn't really know where he was at that point in time. But she had kicked him out, and he was gone, is all I know. So we go in, serve a search warrant on the house, and I walk in this house. Okay. And just trying to keep it to where I don't mention anything that would be.
I got you.
But so I walk in the house, walk in the front door. Technically, probably if you Googled it right there, you probably see the house. But I walk through the front door of this house, and instantaneously I look over, and there's kids' toys sticking out from behind the couch. And there is a door which would give the indication that it was like a bedroom door or something that has an exterior latch and padlock on it.
That's my nightmare.
Okay. So when I walk in, I see this lock on the door. I have no key. We ultimately just pried it off, and we go in, and I kid you not, there is a army bunk, a stripper pole,
oh my God,
and an ice cream freezer, and a chair, kind of like a sort of like a little fancy chair, not like one of these desk chairs, but sort of like rounded, and got it, and it's covered in plastic.
Oh no.
Taped off, covered in plastic. And in the corner, there is a camera system, which is feeding all the exterior cameras of the house, and also cameras that are stationed in that room all the way around.
Jeez.
And there's about, I think it was, don't quote me on this, but it was right at 600 VHS tapes in the corner. 600 VHS tapes.
Was these like branded tapes, or was it like home tapes, or
it was home tapes?
Oh my God.
600 and some home VHS tapes. So what happens is, naturally, I mean, he's not there. He's not going to tell me what's on those tapes, but based on the room, I mean, the assumptions are insane at that point.
It's like that movie Seven or something.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
Jesus.
so what's happening is he gets, I've served the search warrant. I collect all this and I have to watch all 600 of those VHS tapes to see what's on them. And all 600 of those tapes were just porn. Now I have to explain that. So what would happen is he had a huge satellite, okay, out back, and didn't know if it functioned or not at the time. But according to the time on the tapes and stuff, it did function back then. And so what happens is I'm literally I was in there for a week watching porn.
Goodness
in the police
gracious.
department. Because what would happen is you put it in there and you did. And I'm like, this is not going to do any good. This is not going to help me any. Okay. So what happens is, though, what he would do is those tapes were recording what was going on in that room. Okay. And other things that he was getting through that satellite somehow. Okay. Which was images of young girls, like kids in erotic outfits, stuff like that, like CP, right?
Jesus.
So, but here's the kicker though. Like he would record over it. Like whatever he would have on there from the cameras and what he would have on there for a while on the thing, he would run over it and just let the VCR record over that tape with regular porn from the satellite. Okay. But he screwed up because what would happen is, I guess it would stop or something would happen. So in between each porn recording, like for anywhere from like a flashpoint to a minute or two, or even longer in some cases where he just screwed up and missed it, there was videos and snippets of that child CP and then of what was actually occurring in that room.
Right.
Okay. Now, what would happen in the room, I won't get into a whole lot of detail on that.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm going to put a warning at the beginning of this. So, whatever you want to lay out, I'm good with. Whatever you don't want to lay out, I'm good with too. But yeah, for sure.
So what happens is, as I'm watching these, the videos in the room were all of girls that appeared to be 18. Okay.
Right.
But if they were 18, some of them weren't 18 for long. Okay. And there had to have been, based on the interactions, there had to have been certain interactions that transpired that were built over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because some of these girls were coming there and he would pay them, and not like it wasn't like necessarily, it was strange because it wasn't necessarily like in the conventional sense of like a prostitute, right? Guy goes, picks up a prostitute, they go do their thing and they roll on. You know what I mean? This was different than that. They had a relationship to a certain point. Okay. So to skip back, just to throw this in there so everybody understands this going in, I go back through his history before I even bring him in. And back in the late 70s, early 80s, he was investigated by Beckley PD detectives for actually physically touching a young girl, but they couldn't find enough to convict him. So he was accused of it, but he was never prosecuted for it. And I actually went back and tried to talk to the detectives. One of them, I think, was still alive and done that. And then he was like, just never could get enough to charge him. And they didn't.